Walker Buehler in front of the Bourbon Wall, back in Lexington, back at the spot, and that's magnificent. Congratulations on your
Too strong.
backdrop.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. Buffalo Trace is the majority of this wall, but yeah, we're doing pretty good so far.
100%.
Yeah, like you, for all the people watching on YouTube, he has a big flat screen TV behind him as well. But he's got more bourbon than TV, and I think that thing's probably what 50 inches back there, maybe 60.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. It's a decent sized piece.
We're doing just fine. I'm going with the Blantons because it's the last day of the minor league season. So I was like, you know what? Like, I need it. We'll get her done and we'll be classy while doing so. Peter, you're going with what? Old Forester right now?
I went with Old Forester. You know, Buffalo Trace, I think has like a nice sweeter taste to it, but Old Forester feels like my beard is growing in a little bit heavier. Like it's just it. I think I like Old Forester when I'm talking ball, but when I'm just chilling and relaxing, I think a Buffalo Trace suits that a little bit better. But this is we got some topics to talk about today. Joey Votto, your rehab, Old Forester. It's doing.
I like it.
Before we get into that, how do you feel about my Bears? Any like sweeping takeaways there?
I heard it's not going too well up there.
Did you see Taylor Swift like slapping the plexiglass in front of her?
Yeah, Taylor Swift at the game today. I guess that was big news, right?
That was huge news. And she watched a murder of my football team.
Yeah, Jack, it's a little bit embarrassing when you got Taylor Swift, Patrick Mahomes' wife, Jackson Mahomes, just screaming at your Bears as they're losing 41-10. But is it more embarrassing than the Broncos, who lost 70-20? I'm not sure. It might be.
Yeah, that was a lot of points. I also left. I don't know how to pronounce his name yet. He is a rookie, but Ashane or Ashani or whatever. I think left him on the bench today in the old fantasy league for 53 points. So,
dude,
that was heartbreaking.
How'd you know to snag that guy? They said he put up 49 fantasy points, and I said, who?
Yeah, in our league it was 53.3.
Damn.
I'm still gonna lose in my fantasy football matchup, even though I had Raheem Mostert, who had 4 touchdowns. But guess who I started, Jack? Justin Fields.
Yeah, he was great. He was awesome. Yeah, we're looking good. We're looking like we might win the Caleb off. So we'll see what happens there. How you feeling, man? Like, obviously, we'll get into the Votto and we'll get into Cy Young races. I do want to get your winners in each league on the Cy Young, but obviously, like, this is the first time talking to you since we saw the news that you were, shut down for the rest of the year. That was probably a decision that you guys had to think long and hard about, and you and your wife and the rest of your family, and of course Glaze and the rest of, your crew over at Excel. Like, how tough was that decision? Why is that the right decision for you?
Yeah, we touched on it. I kind of did an interview in LA about it, and just when you don't recover right, it's hard to. That's kind of not always been an issue for me, and to think about not recovering after pitching in a AAA game and then within a month be trying to throw in the playoffs, it just didn't line up, and we were kind of trying to thread the needle and in some ways do something that kind of really hasn't been done in terms of second Tommy John come back, and I was back on the field in less than 13 months, so I think we did a lot of good things, and it just didn't work out in the end, and that's kind of part of it. But now I got another full off season to kind of get back to where I want to be and to try and get ready to have a big year next year.
When was the moment you realized, because you were doing all of these rehab outings and you looked great, like the fastball velo was excellent, these hype videos were getting me fired up. I'm just sitting in my apartment just watching these with this incredible soundtrack and editing on top of it, and I'm like, we're gonna see Walker on the mound here. But then we hear the news, and you had that meeting in LA. Was it right after the last rehab start? Like, when did that moment come to you? Where you thought,
obviously when you start a game or pitch in general, it's a couple of days that you're going to be a little bit sore or whatnot, and that just kind of lingered in terms of we're 3-4 days after, and I didn't want to throw a bullpen, and then you just kind of snowball into it, and then you look at the timing of everything, and it ended up being, if we were 2 days delayed, then it didn't really make sense, to be honest, to keep going, and I kind of, not the way that I want to, or obviously our team or our fans or whatever gotten to where I needed to get to, but from a pure rehab perspective, like I got back on the field, pitched in a game, faced professional hitters. Yeah, kind of it sucks, but also you kind of pack it in and get ready to try and be, who I think I can be next year.
100%. So how did that alter kind of the course of the offseason at this point? Did you immediately enter kind of shutdown, or are you still, like full systems go until you hit November 1 or something, and then you hit your shutdown period? What is the offseason?
Yeah, we're kind of going through some, I'm going to do some work with blood testing and all this kind of body optimization or whatever. And we're in kind of data collection mode on that. So here in the next couple of weeks, we'll probably, get everyone on the phone and hopefully the guys are still playing. So, but try and get everyone that's kind of involved in it and the people that I work with here and in LA and Phoenix and kind of put together the plan, I guess, but trying to be a little more, grown up about it, I guess, than I have been in the past.
In terms of blood tests and data optimization, where can little leaguers go to do that?
Yeah,
it's part of it, man. But what's funny is parents will go and do all these camps and lessons and all of that stuff. But, I think at 17, 18 years old, had I, known about that stuff, I probably wouldn't have been 160 pounds when I got to college and stuff like that. And, I think there's a lot of talented people. There's a lot of people that know how to play baseball, right? But to do it at a certain level, you talk about like a guy like Clayton Kershaw who's never missed a full year. Like there's a certain amount of taking care of yourself and understanding your body that goes into that. And for me now, this being the second major surgery, there's probably not going to be a third rehab for me. That's just probably not in the cards. So, seeing what I can do in terms of kind of getting everything else checked off instead of, just relying on being able to throw a ball, I think is going to be a big thing for me. And I'm kind of looking forward to, getting whatever knowledge we can.
So I have two back-to-back questions, and you kind of went into it, but I'm just genuinely curious, like those data points that you're collecting, like just kind of explain that for our audience, because I'm sitting here being like, what the hell? What data points are we collecting here?
Yeah, I'm working with this company called Rapid, and they have a few golfers and some UFC guys and whatever. And it kind of tests your body, see what's really bad for you, what's really good for you, what is different about my body, how do I sleep, how do, basically everything I put in and everything that comes out of me, we're going to test in some way. And, just try and clean everything up, I guess. Obviously, inflammation is one of the biggest things that all of us, I know we all heard the TB12 and all of this stuff. And, obviously it's taken that to an extreme level that we've kind of has been public, but, I think there's a lot of guys that do some form of that. And, I'm in the data collection and testing phase of that whole deal.
Gotcha. And my follow-up to that too, you said that this time around you're more grown up about it. What do you mean by that?
No, I mean, this off season is interesting because it's probably the longest one that I'll ever get, right? Because, I'm home, the season's not even over. So I'm trying to take a couple weeks to try and get all my ducks in a row and try and do certain things weekly. I think for me, at least, the freedom of the off season has always been, all right, I know what I need to do. Here's I got to throw 4 days a week or 6 days a week or whatever point you're at. And as long as I did that, it was kind of all good. But now I just kind of want to get back into kind of a cleaner routine and more of a, I guess, data driven, but also, sharper routine, I guess.
Yeah. So that sharper routine includes golfing, watching football, because you do have to enjoy the off season a little bit. Is the shoe room in Lexington or is it in Phoenix?
Yeah, the shoe room's right back in there. It's right
Shoe
behind us.
there. Okay. So
Yeah,
what are you wearing?
We got Bourbon Bar and we got the shoe room.
Okay. Got you. Who are you wearing? What are you wearing right now? You got any good ones on right now?
No, I'm straight barefoot. I'm at the house, Bubba.
Okay.
I'm in pajama pants right now under the
No,
camp.
I do have all the cleats over here from that episode we did. They're still on some of the cleats.
I love that.
So yeah, we've got some good ones over there. Sorry, I messed up the whole camera.
What's like, let's say next year, Game 7 of the World Series, what's the go-to cleat?
I got a couple months to work with Nike and design next year, so I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I probably am going to go back to. I would like to go back to the backward swoosh again, but we'll see if I get approved again for those.
Got you. I'm sure it's a very strict application process. I saw you got out to LA to see your boy Theo Vaughn.
Yep.
Was he doing stand up out there? Was he at Comedy Store or something like that?
Yeah, he was at the store. We just ran into him we went to dinner, my wife, my brother-in-law and I, and he was just in there. So kind of said what's up, and then I just went over and saw him perform. He ended up driving me home, which was kind of funny, but no, it's funny. I guess he was just out there doing all his podcast stuff, and I think he stops in to see everyone over there. So we had a good time.
Gotcha.
Theo Vaughn was your designated driver?
Yeah, every once in a while.
Every once in a while.
That's a pretty good one. Let's take you back to your Cincinnati roots, though. We were talking right before we hit record. You're a Bengals guy. Bengals and Peter's Rams at it tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna beat some ass. We're gonna beat some ass on Monday night. Yeah, that's a fact. Matt
Nakua
Stafford
and Tutu Atwell.
Doesn't matter. We got Stafford, best quarterback in the league. Joe Burrow's got to get his foot fixed.
Easy peasy. Taking you back to your Reds fandom days as a kid, Joey Votto was on those teams, man. Like Votto, we saw, and we just talked about it in the intro a little bit, and we had the Hall of Fame discussion, and we want your take on it. Votto had a massive ovation in his first plate appearance in what was possibly/probably his final game as a Red at Great American Ballpark. And man, at one point he literally said to the crowd, "I got to go hit." That guy is loved in Cincinnati. He spent 17 years there. So yes or no question to start, and then elaborate. Is Joey Votto a Hall of Famer, yes or no? And what are your favorite kind of Joey Votto memories growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the general sense, the feeling is probably yes. I don't know if I guess nowadays it's really about the numbers, but when you think about his height and what he did for a pretty extended period of time at a really high level, I think it's definitely, he's going to get votes, right? It's just a matter of how many. And the Hall of Fame thing's gotten just kind of weird because some of these guys just aren't getting in that, I think at least the generation that I watched growing up, you kind of like, oh yeah, he was one of the best players ever. And then maybe not, or the numbers don't say, or the voting and whatever. So, but he's kind of out of that era where it's not a steroid thing. It's just a matter of what he actually accumulated. But yeah, huge part of the teams that I watched growing up, and I know he means a lot to the city of Cincinnati, and for me, he was one of the weirder guys to face when I first got to the big leagues because I watched him so much, and yeah, kind of a special character too. Obviously, some of the off the field stuff and the interviews and how he interacts, but really beloved in Cincy, and I guess we'll see if he retires or not. But I know for some of those for a lot of guys, like being hurt the way he was this year might not be the way he wants to go out. So I know he's still a pretty productive player when he's healthy, and it wouldn't shock me if he did play another year.
Yeah, I have a two-parter on that one. Do you remember any specific ABs against Joey Votto? And then maybe if you don't remember specifics, just what made him such a difficult out?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the number, I walk him like almost every time I face him. I don't understand how. It's like 0-2. I literally will be like 0-2, 1-2, and then I walk him every time. I don't know why, but no, I mean, I think he was one of the first guys that really, in a while, was like super, super selective, and that was kind of not always the thing. You see it a lot more now. Guys like Max Muncy that have a lot of power that are also super selective, but he also did it at a really high average for a long time. So he was kind of doing everything you can do, getting on base, hitting with power, hitting for average. And yeah, he was just a special hitter. And, I don't really know how to peg down why he was so different, but it is the way he approached hitting, I think has been adopted a little bit more now, but I think it was a different way to do it. And, even the past 3 or 4 years, you've seen him kind of take a step back and just try and hit the ball really hard. And for a guy that age, that experience to kind of reinvent himself is pretty interesting.
Real quick, Peter, question for you. I've got the numbers, Walker versus Joey Votto. He said I walked him like pretty much every time I saw him, right? That's what you said?
Yep.
how many times in 18 plate appearances do you think Walker Buehler walked Joey Votto?
I'm going to go because Walker said he was getting him to 0-2, 1-2, but Joey Votto's a damn good hitter. I'm going to say Votto went 4 for 6 with
18 plate appearances.
No, I know. 4 for 6 with 8 or 9 walks.
He was 4 for 14 with 4 walks. It's not every time, man.
I'm trying to get Walker a little fired up over there.
Well, I think I've walked him like in every game I've faced him or something like that. I feel like I walk him more than anyone else. I don't know why.
Okay. He's kind of menacing in the batter's box. And, I know obviously you think like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass, with my pitches in the strike zone, pretty much with every guy you see. And there are physical specimens that get in the batter's box against you every night. But Votto, like there's something about even 39-year-old Joey Votto and like the way he's built and the upright stance that it's like, wow, this guy can hit a ball a really long way. And he changed the way he approached hitting in 21, I want to say.
Yep.
He had 39 pumps and 99 driven in. So this guy, his ability to adapt this late, and obviously he's a weird dude, and that's why we love him. He's curious, and he delivers his points in a unique way, and that's why everybody wants to listen to Joey Votto. So in terms of that weirdness, do you feel like almost that weirdness helped him as a ball player?
Yeah, I mean, I think, every guy copes with whatever the pressure of being a Major League Baseball player different. And, I think in some way for him, that was, I honestly don't know Joey very well, but from the outside looking in, like maybe that's the way that he copes with it, right? Because he doesn't handle it like everyone else, so then he doesn't have to feel it like everyone else, I guess. I've certainly played with guys that are like that, and just kind of a different kind of baseball player. I don't really know how else to explain it other than we just haven't seen many like him, and probably won't again.
Was it ever weird pitching at Great American Ballpark because it's so tiny?
It is small, and it is weird for me. I have so much family there still, and so it's all there's just so many people. I never throw good there. I don't like throwing there. It is what it is, but I've certainly been to a game or two there in my life.
Yeah. Jump into Cy Young real quick with you. Let's start National League and then go to the American League, because I think you could say that both these races are put away, and I want to see if your thinking is kind of on par with that, or you think against that. And in the National League, I think the majority of the baseball fan believes that Blake Snell is the Cy Young winner. Now, there are certain checkpoints where he falls short of the mark, right? He's walked more guys than anybody else in the National League. He's gotten 9 outs after the 6th inning. Steele has won a ton more games. I know Gallen has thrown way more innings. And these guys are throwing in very meaningful ball games. And until 9 games ago, the Padres were not playing meaningful ball games for the last couple of months. So do you firmly believe that Snell is the guy in the National League, or do you think Steele or Gallen, or I know some people still are on the Strider train, do you think these guys deserve some consideration?
Wait, Walker,
Yeah,
before you give your answer, Jack is a Chicago native, so he's pro Steele. And the Padres are you guys' rival, and I'm always down to talk shit. So if we want to just bag on Blake Snell right now, like I'm game. I've had my old Forster, right? We don't even have to be truthful. We can just talk shit.
My thought on that real quick is I just don't think that a Cy Young winner can walk 5.5 guys per 9. That's just my thought, and like probably short-sighted and outdated and all that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, like the checkpoints for me have always been 3 ERA, sub 1 WHIP, like throw 6 innings to start. Like that's kind of just the stuff that you're trying to do, and largely, when you're not giving up many hits, like Blake doesn't give up a lot of hits. So if he walks guys, he walks guys. Now, obviously, those kind of go hand in hand with the innings or getting through the 6th and whatnot. But I think his numbers kind of speak for themselves in some way. Obviously, the other guys have done different parts of it, but I think probably the whole picture says that it's probably Blake. But I guess I kind of grew up in we talked about this with the 2021 race and kind of being a part of that, and it's just a different thing. I grew up in the Cy Young guys watching Kersh or looking at Kersh's numbers, and he used to be throw 220 and have a 2.5 and punch out 220. And, now it's just kind of changed to where, guys need to be as good. It's kind of the quality, quantity situation, but quality has definitely become something that is more hunted and more targeted as opposed to kind of doing good while you're, getting quantity. And it kind of is what it is.
Do you think that change there came from Snell winning his first Cy Young and then Corbin Burns winning the Cy Young in 21?
I just think it's kind of how the game is played now. I think for me, the first time that I would ever remember thinking like this is different than it used to be is those Royals teams that had those 3 or 4 guys coming out of the bullpen every night where you kind of, I remember Cueto in the playoffs, it was like, oh, he just has to get through 5 and then they win, right? Like that was probably the first step in that direction for me that I remember. But yeah, it's kind of a different game now. And, going 7-8 is something that isn't expected anymore. It's kind of, oh, he had a really, really big night. And I think you look into the pitch counts and hunting the punch out and things like that, like all those lead to starting pitchers throwing less innings. It kind of is what it is, as well as now not many guys are throwing sinkers, which was kind of the starter pitch to get guys through 6, 7, 8 innings. They could throw 95 pitches, right? The Maddox stuff. And yeah, it's just the game is changing in terms of what hitters are trying to do, what pitchers are trying to do to combat that. And so the best in the league at this point at doing what the league wants is probably Blake Snell.
And I feel that Blake Snell, because, they were both in this race down the stretch, right? Steele had a mid-2s, so did Snell. But then Steele started struggling a little bit, had a couple of blow-up outings.
Yep.
But I felt that Blake Snell won the Cy Young was when he went into Dodger Stadium and threw those 6 shutout innings. So as you're getting another bourbon, I'm curious what your kind of takeaway was there. And do you think that was the moment? Because he's already faced you guys 3 times. I thought that this was an opportunity for the Dodgers bats who have destroyed left-handed pitching all year to finally really get to Blake Snell. And he arguably had his best outing of the year in Dodger Stadium in Chavez Ravine. It wasn't at Petco at home in front of his home crowd. It was in front of a rowdy Dodger fan base.
Right.
I guess your takeaways from that start, and do you think that was the moment he kind of won the Cy Young?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he goes and wins it, that's probably going to be the moment everyone talks about, right? I think, first off, you're talking about he's pitched against us 4 times. Like, it is different now with this new scheduling, right? Like, I pitched against Colorado my rookie year 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
I made 7 starts against one team. I made 25 starts or something. So a third of them basically were against one team. So this new scheduling thing is different. Also, Blake has thrown really well against us kind of forever. Obviously, the World Series stuff, but when he's been in San Diego, he's been really good against us. He's kind of been the guy that he has been this year against everyone against us for a few years. And, the guy's won a Cy Young before. And, I don't think any of it is surprising. I think the interesting thing or the thing that is catching people off guard is a lot of people pick San Diego to beat us this year, and they've kind of had a down year, but now they have a Cy Young guy. It's always kind of been the opposite of that, I guess. So, he's put together a great year, and, somebody's going to win it. And I would imagine it's him. I was kind of rooting outside of our guys and not having a guy in that. I mean, Kershaw's had a great year. It's just the numbers, right? There's the quantity, but, Gallen is a buddy of mine, so I would have liked to see him kind of finish it out. I know he threw either yesterday or today. Threw pretty good. So
yeah,
He's got a 7 shutout today.
Dominated my Yankees. Put him in his back pocket. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
He's a fun guy to watch. I like watching him throw a lot.
Well, and you've said that you feel like he's probably the most similar to you of guys that are kind of at the top of their game in Major League Baseball right now. And we talked about that kind of pitch by pitch and the way he goes about it. He's got one more start left in the tank. It's going to be high leverage because it's going down to the wire in the wild card. And this guy's going to get over 200 innings with a mid-3s, and he's 16-8 right now. And he's walking 2 guys per 9. He's striking out more than a hitter per inning. So he's kicking ass. Snell, he starts today, Monday. If he does start in the regular season finale, that gives him the chance to get over 180 innings. He's got 174 right now.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at in baseball, which is bizarre. But, real quick, what you've seen from Gallen over the last bit, because obviously he and Kelly are going to be the thing that gets them into the wild card in this final week with their starts, I'm sure.
Yeah, if they do that, it's gonna take both of those guys, obviously, and piecing it together. I know they went and got Seawald, I guess, at the deadline, so that was a move that kind of shows you what they're trying to do and kind of shoring up the back end. But yeah, they got an interesting team in Arizona. A lot of young, a lot of talent, a lot of young talent, and I think they're probably feeling like if one of their rookie starting pitchers would have really hit, they would be in there kind of for sure, right? So trying to put those pieces together, I guess. But yeah, it'll be an interesting race on a lot of these teams. There's still a lot of guys that or a lot of teams that are still involved, right? I saw something, the Giants still have like a 1% chance or whatever it is, but some wild stuff can happen. You never really know.
I gotta admit, I love Zach Allen, but Merrill Kelly fires me up. He's just like, he's this like, he looks like he's 35 years old. He looks kind of like a men's league guy, but then he's just throwing 93-mile-an-hour two-seamers and sinkers and four-seamers, and like nobody ever hits him. And then you blink and you wake up and it's the 7th inning and he's allowed 1 run. Like, I've never understood, like, what is the mentality facing a guy like Merrill Kelly? Obviously, you're not in the box, but when Merrill Kelly travels into Dodger Stadium, I assume you guys are treating it like this guy has been at least close to, maybe not an ace, but a high-end number 2 now for a couple of years. Like, the Dodgers as a whole have to have a lot of respect for a guy like Merrill Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly seen him throw really, really well. I think we've done a pretty good job with him.
That's what I was going to say. You guys in particular have kind of hit well.
I think my, like, kind of what I've watched in person might be a little biased just because we've done pretty well with him. But yeah, kind of an interesting story. He went to Asia somewhere, Korea or Japan or something.
KBO, yeah.
Kind of reinvented himself somewhat. And, we talk about pitch separation and all that stuff all the time with certain guys. And he's kind of one of the only guys that does it the opposite, where everything's pretty close and it just kind of how Lance Lynn does it, where it's like 83 to 93 and everything moves every which way. And yeah, those 2 guys are probably the 2 that do that the most efficiently, I would say. So he's an interesting guy to watch because it doesn't really, there's not 98 in there, but there's also not 78. It's all like mid 80s, low 90s, and it goes every which way. And you'll see some of the best hitters in baseball not really know what to do with all that.
I was going to point to Lance Lynn, but I think all 3 of us know that Bartolo Colon's still doing that somewhere in the DR. Like,
somewhere.
That was more just one pitch, wasn't it?
No, I think it was like he threw a cutter, a 4-seamer, a 2-seamer. Somehow his 2-seamer sinker were distinct.
But Bartolo also threw 100 at one point, right? Like, it's a different thing when you kind of establish yourself as the guy that Merrill has at best bolt, whatever it is, mid low 90s.
Bartolo Colon threw 100.
He did. Yeah. A young Bartolo. He threw 100. It was hard. He threw really hard. American League. This guy throws hard. It's Coles, I think. Yeah. You've got all these guys in Seattle having really solid years. Luis Castillo has looked freaking nails, dude, which has been so much fun to watch for them. You also have Kevin Gausman throwing his ass off, but he's had a couple of blow-ups here and there in Toronto. It's Cole against the field, and I assume it's Cole. We've talked about Cole. We've talked about his fastball, and we've just kind of dissected sequences for him. And this guy can be utterly dominant. And in a year where, Aaron Judge just told The Athletic, if I'm not talking to you after a championship, the season is a bust. So I guess at a year where it was busted for the Yankees, Cole is still, I'm sorry, but Cole is still going to run away with the Cy Young here. You've got the best pitcher maybe in baseball this year in Garrett Cole. So what's your kind of take on what you've seen from Cole this year and just over the course of his career?
Yeah, I mean, I guess first off, you don't sign a $300 million something contract if you're not pretty good at what you're doing, right? So I think the fact that I think this would be his first one, right? He's kind of been in those, he's been in there a lot, but I was actually kind of shocked when I heard that he had won one, but he does what starting pitchers are supposed to do, right? I think he's a little bit more of a throwback in terms of he's going to throw almost 200 innings or just over it, and he'll punch 250 and kind of post every day. You know, I know a lot of people respect the fact that he just throws every year and kind of goes about his business the right way. And obviously not the year they kind of wanted in New York, but as you said, kind of a shining spot for them is him winning one. I know he would trade that for going to the playoffs in a heartbeat. Obviously, he's done a lot of big stuff in the playoffs, and you know, his time in Houston was kind of, everybody knew Garrett Cole because of what they were doing as a team and where he was performing in those spots. So kind of an interesting year for him to win one, but I think he'll probably take it home.
11 years, real quick, 11 years in the big leagues. This guy's finished top 5 in Cy Young voting 6 times now,
Right.
including this year, and he's finished second twice. So this would be
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it is what
Yankees are wasting the primes of Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole. As a Yankee fan, it's very nice to see. When you're making a top pitchers in baseball list, because when we're talking about the Cy Young, right, we're a bunch of nerds. We love ranking guys. Garrett Cole's reliability, the strikeout stuff, the 200 innings every 5th day. I assume Clayton Kershaw would be at the top of your list of top 5 starters, and maybe you'd be number 2. But is Garrett Cole kind of, when you're looking at the rest of the starting pitchers in the league, you need a guy for a season? Is Cole at the top of your list?
Yeah, I mean, I think just every year everybody kind of gets older, right? So we're kind of getting to the point where Scherzer, Verlander are kind of like, Cole is now what Verlander and Scherzer were 5 years ago, right? Like, it's just veteran guys that have done it for a really long time and done it at a really high level. And yeah, I think Kersh is certainly up there just for me witnessing it. Be hard for me to say if I had one game, I'd want anyone else but him to pitch it, right? But you know, I guess we kind of already touched on it, but you know, people don't sign for 300 something million if they're not really good at what they do. And Garrett, you know, certainly has earned that contract and continues to, because it's not like, oh, now he signed the big deal and he's just throwing 140 innings and taking 2 months and doing whatever, right? He's going and posting, and that's what you're supposed to do, and he's doing it at a really, really high level.
We asked Pitching Ninja this question. I really wanted to ask you as well. Who do you think is going to win the Cy Young in the next couple of years that maybe isn't in the race right now, right? You could say Zach Allen, of course.
Yeah.
You could say Justin Steele, who are going to finish 1-2. And you could say Gausman and Castillo, Sonny Gray. We've talked about him plenty on this show. Who's a guy, because he mentioned Brandon Woodruff. He talked about a couple other guys. Who do you foresee maybe the 2025, 2026 Cy Young, maybe in the American League or National League?
I think Max Fried is somebody that we probably don't talk about a ton. Obviously, he keeps getting the blisters and stuff, and but the years when he's healthy and pitching, and obviously we've seen him a lot in the playoffs. Like, he's got, you know, he's a special talent. I think the Kirby kid from Seattle, maybe we could be talking about at some point. Just with the control, it feels like he can be really consistent if he kind of figures everything out, I guess. But the kid in Miami, I think, is one that we're going to be watching for a long time.
Luzardo or Yuri Perez?
Yuri Perez.
Perez would be the one that I was talking about. Luzardo is obviously super talented as well, but you know, it's hard because you talk in, and I'm in this kind of category too, where guys that have been around 3, 4, 5, 6 years and haven't, like, it's hard to say, like, you know, I'm not coming up with anything new, right? Max has kind of been in those conversations a lot, but yeah, Perez is a guy, I think, if he can get to that 160, 180 inning mark, he's just extremely talented. I think Strider, you know, I know this year he's been a little plagued by the home run ball, but he's going to punch out, you know, damn near punch out 300. So that's kind of not something everyone can do. Obviously, you know, baseball's kind of changing. Guys are throwing hard, guys are throwing a lot, and there's just a lot of talent. So you don't really know. It's going to be the guy that can put together 30 games in a row and not necessarily, you know, I think that's kind of the misconception on the Cy Young. It's not necessarily like who the best guy is. It's who put together the best 32 starts that didn't have, you know, 4 horrible ones that screwed him, right?
For 2 this year. He's thrown 126 innings. He's back from nagging injuries that feel like they're apparent every year. And this guy is flawless. he's like the best left-hander of all time. And I know like the old heads are going to
It's
say,
not
hey,
like he is. Like everyone keeps floating this as if there's like a real debate to it. I don't know if it's necessarily super close.
I
I don't
mean,
know. What about Lefty Grove?
I've
back
got
in
Sandy
1920?
Koufax on line one. That's the argument. I've got
Yeah,
Koufax
but
on line.
look at the amassing of the numbers, right? It's just a different thing. Sandy, obviously, for time, a period of time, there's never been anyone better for 4 or 5, 6 years. But Clayton's done it for a long time now, and done it at a high level in LA for a long time. Like he's just as good as he's as good as there's ever been.
There was a great feature on him, and I'm blanking on the author, but I will find it while you chat. But I mean, this guy has adapted the way he pitches over the course of his career, and we've seen so many different iterations of Clayton Kershaw. And it feels like this year we're seeing a different iteration of Clayton Kershaw, and he's somehow figured out a way to get through 6 scoreless innings in 2008, or well, 2008 he had a 4-2, but 2009
Right.
and 2023, and he's done it every single fucking year. He's incredible. Where do you feel like this iteration of Clayton Kershaw is? Like, what has he changed that maybe when you came up you didn't necessarily see from Kersh?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone wants to say that, and I think like I kind of get the sentiment of it, but I also I don't agree that he's really changed a whole lot with everyone that keeps saying that, right? It's still fastball, slider, occasional curveball, like attacks hitters, doesn't walk many guys. Obviously this year it's a little bit up, but like for his career, he's going to walk 3% of hitters or something like that. Like he's not a guy that walks a bunch of guys. And yeah, he throws 4 split changeups a game now. Like, and everyone's talking about he reinvented himself. Like since I've been in LA, it's been 89, 93 with a slider, high level, highly competitive, gets out of jams. Like it's been the same guy. And it just so happens that the guy he is a 2.48 career ERA. Like I think I truly feel like Clayton would throw exactly the same way he does. If he did his whole thing over again, he would do exactly the same thing. Like it's all he knows how to do. He does it correctly. He does it the right way. He takes care of himself. He's thrown a lot of innings. He's thrown a lot of big games. He's got a lot of really, really good hitters out a lot of times. Like he just, I think it's hard to say anything other than he's really, really good at pitching. And so whenever he's healthy enough to be out there and feels like he can get guys out, like I know our organization and all of us are okay, cool. Like go get everybody out. It is what it is.
It was your guy Fabian with the Athletic, by the way.
What's your favorite thing that you learned from Clayton Kershaw?
I think pitching wise we're just different enough. I think I'm kind of spray pattern in terms of trying to figure out how to throw every single pitch, and he has this kind of consistent stuff that he does. But the confidence in how he goes about his business, I think I don't really want to like get too deep into it, but like the way he scouts, there's a lot of confidence in the way that he scouts and doing what he knows how to do, and but then humble enough to kind of adjust if he has to, right? And yeah, I think I couldn't have asked to play with anyone older than me, that was better for me to be around. But in terms of put my foot here and lift my leg this way, I don't think those are really the things that we talk about as much. I know, you're senior in high school or freshman in high school, like yeah, you're going to talk about your swing and all that stuff, but I think at that level and being in the big leagues, it's more about like how can you be more consistent? How can you work a little bit better? How are you living? Where are you guys living in Phoenix? Like that's the stuff that you learn from the older guys in terms of how to be a big leaguer more than how to be a baseball player, I guess.
Kind of unfortunate that you didn't give us the deep dark secrets into Kershaw in case Jack and I want to make a shot at the bigs. I mean, I'm in my athletic prime, so is Jack.
I don't think it's going to help you too much, buddy.
Are you sure? I mean, I just need a
Not
little
that, man.
Dude, I was in the low 80s in high school. All I just need some secrets.
I threw the football around for 30 minutes.
I'm sore.
I'm so screwed, dude. I can't.
That'll happen.
It happens. By the way, I've talked to a lot of pitchers in AAA that say they want to throw a football in the offseason because it's the most athletic form of throwing. That's my last question for you. Like, have you ever kind of heard that idea? Like, it gets you back to the purest form of throwing a football?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us throw football in spring, or I've done it late in seasons before just to try and get moving a little bit. At some point you've played catch for 9.5 straight months with a baseball, right? Like sometimes you want to just feel a little something different. And, I think tricking your body in that way is a big thing. And I know a lot of guys that have benefited from it or feel like they do. I don't know. There's a lot of kind of subjective stuff that goes into pitching, right? It's like how you feel doesn't always mean you're going to be good. If you feel horrible, you can be really good. You can feel great and be awful. But sometimes late in the year, you got to kind of trick your mind a little bit.
Have you ever contemplated earthing, like becoming one with the soil,
No.
barefoot? No,
Not my thing, man.
you should try it.
Yeah.
Why?
Worked for Aaron Rodgers. He's like 50
Oh
years
yeah.
old. I mean,
Well, yeah, okay.
bad time to talk about Aaron Rodgers,
Yeah,
but
that was a bad one. It happens.
Before we let you go, Bengals are a 2-point favorite at home against the Rams. Who wins? Walker
Rams.
Buehler's Bengals or Peter Appel's Rams?
Rams.
I'll ride with my guys.
Okay.
That was not a confident answer.
As long as Joe Burrow plays, I'll ride with the Bengals.
There we go. All right. Walker Buehler, Nostradamus, and great guest on the Just Baseball Show and a great guest host all season long. We look forward to chatting with you all off season as you work your way back to the hill. Appreciate you, man.
See you.